Welcome. Today's presentation is going to be on materials. My name is Dustin Cruz. I'm one of the content developers here at Chief Architect, and I'm really excited. Materials are my favorite subject. So we're going to run through a presentation on materials. If you have questions during the presentation, feel free to ask them in chat. We have staff here that'll answer your questions in chat as we go through the presentation. If you have a question later on that is more complex or you'd like to ask in person, we'll do a Q&A shortly after. If for whatever reason you have to leave early or you want to watch it again, we will offer a link tomorrow in an email with a survey and a link to today's recording. So don't feel like you have to stick around the entire time if you have to go. You won't miss anything. So with that, let's light this candle. Okay, let's get started. We're going to be evaluating materials, and when I say that, I mean we're going to assess what kind of materials we need, where to get them, how to get everything set up, and get the ball rolling. Where do we get textures and maps, how to adjust materials, setting out our patterns. With our materials, we're going to be doing some fine-tuning today, lots of small movements, maybe some color adjustments, just little nitpicky stuff, some nuance. We're going to discuss texture resolution just briefly and X13 improvements to the material workflow. If you have further questions after the fact, feel free to reach out to me at dustin@chiefarchitect.com for any material questions you might have. I'd love to hear from you. Since this is the second presentation on materials, there are some things that we will not discuss. I might touch on them as we blow by, but a lot of the stuff is basics. So loading textures and maps, adjusting patterns, pattern generation, offset, scale, rotation, keeping patterns and textures in sync, material properties, and bringing in your own textures. We're going to be doing a lot of this today, but I'm not going to stop and discuss it a whole lot. I might mention a tip here or there. So let's get started. I thought today it might be kind of fun to do a full workflow for materials. So we have this very nice bathroom that we're going to recreate in Chief. We've already made it in Chief, and we have the default materials all over it because we haven't touched any of the materials yet. As we go through the presentation, we're going to do our best to make this default bathroom look like the image, and we'll see how close we can get with our material tools. Before we dig into Chief, though, I like to start by looking at the image and really kind of studying it, seeing what kind of materials I'll need, seeing where I can get the materials that I need. Is any of this stuff going to be a custom job? Is most of it pretty basic? With this bathroom, we got the image from Mercury Mosaics, a partner of ours that's already in the 3D library. So we're going to be recreating the image they gave us. They made this awesome tile here in the shower. So looking at this bathroom, I'm going to break down what I see, and you don't have to do this, but I added some color overlays to show what I'm thinking. So looking at the cabinetry on the left here, shaded in green, the white should match the countertop and cabinets. It looks like it's the same white value. We want them to be pretty close as far as the color itself. The only difference is that the countertop is going to have a low roughness because it's polished, it has a nice sheen to it, and the cabinetry does not have any sort of reflective qualities. So we're going to probably make it maybe 50% roughness. We'll see when we get there, but just wanted to mention that. For the diamond pattern floor down at the bottom in red, because it's kind of a unique pattern, we're going to discuss our options. You can either do a custom job where you make your own, or you can put a proxy in if you find something close. We'll discuss our options when we get to that section. And the big enchilada over here is the shower itself. We're going to install the tile, and most of our adjustments are going to be in here, moving stuff around and getting our stuff to lay how we want it. And we'll show some of the new tools while we're in there as well. So everything else that's not color is just kind of basic. This is going to be your basic white in Chief. This is going to be whatever wood you prefer. It doesn't look like a very prominent grain, so just something kind of small. The windows, the porcelain, it's all pretty basic. I just wanted to show that in this image particularly, there's only two real problem children for materials, and we'll address it. So when I look at a new image, when I'm going to start a new material pass, I'm going to look at the room as a whole and identify areas that I want to spend my time. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on every single material. You are more efficient when you spend most of your time on the materials where you can get the most bang for your buck. Okay, let's go back to Chief. So we have our default bathroom all set up. We need to start applying materials. Before we do, let's take a look at our reference one more time. We're going to do the basics first. So we need to make everything white, the ceiling, the walls. We need some wood here that matches. Let's start with the shelves. So we know that's going to be a wood. So let's go to our core, materials, down to wood, And we can pick any wood we want, but it looks like in this image it's not a very strong grain. So let's try alder. And if I click on the top level folder of alder, I can see all the tones of alder that are in there. We can just visually match what we want. It looks like alder natural will be the one that we're going to go with. And once I selected that material, you can see in the bottom left, our scoping tools are activated. You have component, which just paints one component. If I go down to this cabinet right here and paint the panel, just the panel gets painted. Let's undo that. If I do object, then the entire object, the entire cabinet is going to be painted. Okay? Let's undo that. Room. The entire room is going to be painted. Everything that has that snow white color is going to be painted. Let's undo that. And then floor is just like room, but the entire floor. So if I do this, the entire floor, everything on the floor will be painted. Anybody can guess what plan does? Plan does the entire plan. Okay? So we've only got one room here, so you're not going to see the entire plan because it is the entire plan. But for these shelves, we're going to do component because it's just one component, one shelf, and we're good to go. We also need to make the walls white, and we happen to have a white right here. So I'm going to eyedrop that. I'm going to then do room because I want everything that has this drywall material in the room to be changed to this white. Okay? We're getting there. Notice that the shower did not change. The color is still that beige. If I go to plan view, you can see that it is its own room. So if I did floor, then that would have also been painted. But we don't need to because we're going to put a blue tile in there anyway. So for now, I have a countertop here. Let's go into my user catalog. It's like a cooking show. Everything's already pre-made. I have a Newport here that would work just fine for our countertop. And we look at our reference photo again. Pretty close. We're getting there. We'll do some adjustments here in a bit. But for this example, I'm not going to use Newport. I'm going to use the same material that's on the cabinets because I mentioned before we want the same white value to be on both. So now if I grab my Adjust Materials tool, the little rainbow tool up here at the top, click on that countertop, it is Color Snow White and Color Snow White. Okay, so they are both identical. I mentioned before that we want the countertop to have a polish to it, and we'll do that also in a sec. That's our basic material pass. What we're going to do now is look at our more advanced materials, our more difficult materials, and then we'll come back around and then polish up this countertop. Let's do the more advanced materials now. Let's take a look at our reference. We need to get this blue tile. And because I know it's a Mercury Mosaic image, I would guess that this is a Mercury Mosaic tile. In fact, I know it is. So, to do that, we need to go get the Mercury Mosaics catalog from our 3D library. And to do that, you just go to the Chief Architect 3D library. You're going to type in Mercury. And there we go. There's our catalog. We click on that. We hit download. That then downloads the file. We're then going to take that file and drop it directly into Chief. And that will load it into your manufacturer catalog library. Let's scroll down. M. There we go. Mercury Mosaics and Tile. I know this is a 3x8 because I made it. And I know it's this one right there, Bluebell. So, I selected my material. I hit the brakes. I checked my scoping. It's still on room. I don't need that. I'm going to do component. And I'm going to fly into the shower because there's a glass wall right here. And if I just painted it, we'd get tile on our glass. We don't want that. Undo. Scroll in. I'm going to paint here. I'm going to paint here. I'm going to paint inside the wall niche. Niche. I'm going to call it niche. And then on the left. Okay, good. Let's scroll back out. There's some things we got to fix in there. But so far, so good. And we're going to compare it back to our reference. Getting there. And now let's circle back onto our countertop. Before we had made them both the cabinet and the countertop white. Let's double check that. Color Snow White and the cabinet Color Snow White. So these are both identical. Most things in this room are snow white since we used that a lot in our basic material pass. But now we want to make the countertop shiny. So if I open this up and I made the countertop shiny, let's take our roughness down to 0. You see this highlight show up over here on the ball. Hit OK. The countertop's shiny, but now everything that uses that color Snow White is also shiny. You can see the walls got some shine to it. The cabinets are looking shiny. The countertop is indeed shiny, but we just want the countertop to be shiny. So let's open that back up. We're going to change it all back to 70. So that's all back to being 70% roughness. We need to now make a copy of this material, and we can do that a couple ways. We can go up here to 3D, drop down to materials, and go to plan materials. These are all the materials currently being used in this plan. So if I wanted to go down to color Snow White, I can then copy it. That makes a new version of it, and we're going to delete copy and just say shiny. Now I can change this roughness down to 0. Hit OK. And you can see this checkbox here. It says in use. Just because we made it doesn't mean it's applied yet. So we need to apply it. And we can either add it to the library with this button, which will then put it right here. We can then paint it on like that, like any other material. Or we can open up the cabinet, and up here where it says countertop color Snow White shiny, at any time you can go in here and navigate to your materials and go to plan materials. And this is the same list that we saw before. So there's our color Snow White shiny. Hit OK. Hit OK. And even if I delete this from my library, let's get rid of it. Now it's in the trash. It's still going to be Shift-C. It's still going to be in our plan materials. Even though we deleted it from the library, it's already in here. So we don't have to maintain it in there if we don't want to. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but we never have to. Okay? So now we have a shiny material on our countertops, the highlight right there, and everything else is matte. Let's double check it one more time. Let's take a look at this wall. 70% roughness. Okay, so they're both white, and the countertop is shiny. Everything else is matte. And let's take a look at the floor. So with the custom floor I mentioned before in our little reference chart here, I'll bring it back up. We have our diamond pattern floor customer proxy. We don't really know what this is called. We don't know who makes it. We don't know where to find it. And if you've ever looked for tile before, because the color of tile, the shape, the material, it's so infinite, it's hard to narrow down what you would even look for when looking for a tile like this. So if I'm in a position where I don't know where something is called and I don't know where to go get it, we run down a checklist. And let's do our checklist right now. Finding or making custom materials. Number 1, we check the core catalog. Let's do that right now. We're not sure what that tile is called, but let's try triangle tile. There's some triangle tile options, but that's not what we're looking for. Let's try triangle pattern tile and bupkis. Okay, so we don't really know what we're looking for. It might be in there, but if you don't know what it's called, it's kind of hard to narrow down what or where it could be. And so sometimes it's even faster to just make your own than it is to dig through infinite tile. Let's go back to our checklist over here. We check the 3D library. So we already did that for the Mercury Mosaics catalog, but we don't know what it's called. So we can download all the tile catalogs, make sure we have all the options available, and once they're installed in Chief, we can then do another search if you want to go that route, if you don't have them already installed. I recommend installing all the tile catalogs. It just makes it easier on yourself, but if you don't, that's fine too. We're going to ask the gang at Chief Talk, and this one's my favorite, and I'm always surprised how fast these guys know where stuff is. We'll go to let's go back to the top level here. You go to Chief Talk, you scroll down a little bit, there's the symbols and content section. Ask these guys. They know a lot about pretty much everything. They'll either know what it's called, maybe they know what the correct search term would be, maybe they know the manufacturer, maybe they have the tile already made and they just give it to you. They are an untapped resource. All these guys know what's going on. So if you don't know what you are looking for, you just put up a picture, say, hey, does anybody know what this tile is called? Or does anybody have a material like this that I can use? More times than not, they'll be able to help you out. If you strike out there, however, you can do a Google image search. Now we're kind of getting desperate. If I go to Google, search for triangle pattern tile, and I'm doing an image search, usually you start off in all, but we want to go to image. Now we can start scrolling down. looking for our triangle pattern tile. Let's take a look at the reference one more time to know what we're looking for. So it looks like a triangle. Looks like it's a square grid. Let's move this to the side. Put this on the other side. Zoom in. And now we can kind of scroll and look for something that matches that tile. And sometimes you get lucky. Maybe you can find the manufacturer at least and then start digging around there. That's not bad. We're getting kind of close. If you click on this, there's more things like that down here. But we're not really seeing the exact thing. And that's fine. I mean, sometimes it's not going to be exact, especially with tile. Let's minimize that. One more thing you can try that I just learned this week from Scott Harris actually was you can take an image. It could be a little bit of this tile down here that you snip out, or even the whole image if you want to do some detective work. Just drag the actual image file into Google up here, drop image here, and it'll do a search and try and find you copies of that image. As we scroll down, we can see that these are coming up with Mercury Mosaics, house, and we can do some detective work at these sites. Maybe they will mention what kind of tile that triangle pattern tile is. Good tip. Use a proxy. There is no shame in finding what you can that's close. If you cannot find the exact material, you can put in a proxy. And that's fine too. If you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. The last thing is you're going to make your own. And it's not as hard as you might think. It's what I do most of the time, so I'll show you some options that you can use to make your own. Maybe it won't be perfect. Maybe it'll be pretty close. Depends how much time you want to put into it. Depending on the tile, it might take 30 seconds to make. So now we are in a position where we need to make a material, and it's not as scary as it sounds. It's not going to be super hard at all. A good place to start would be the bonus catalog. There's a material basic tile catalog. Scroll down here. Material tile basics, and these are all just white tiles that you can use to get started with. So we go here to running bond tile 1-1, put it down. You can see already we've got our square, we've got our maps, it's already shiny. If we look at it in vector view, our pattern's already set. Let's go back to physically based, and let's size them up a little bit. So number one, let's open it up, go to texture. We've got our texture here, our normal map here. Let's count them. Let's see how many we got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 tiles across, 10 tiles down. So if we want 10-inch tiles, we want it to be 100 inches. And you saw it change because the retain aspect ratio is checked. If I uncheck that and change this to 50, it'll be fine. If I recheck that, if I change this to 100, it'll go to 200, so let's uncheck that. 100, 100, hit OK. So we've got our big white tiles, and that's great. But now we need to put our triangle pattern on there. Here's our reference. You can see the triangle pattern on there. You can see the white grout lines just barely for our 10-inch tiles. So now we need to just draw tiles on there, and you can do this in a couple of different ways. There's Photoshop, there's MS Paint, but we want to use the same texture. Right now it's buried in this zip running bond CA. This is the name we're going to be looking for. We're going to be looking for it in this address. So if you copy everything except for the .zip nonsense here, go to Tile Basics, copy it, paste it in your browser, you'll get to the actual zip here. And these are all the materials in that catalog. We can go to, what was our name? 1-1 Running Bond CA. 1-1 Running Bond CA. We're going to copy that, paste it on our desktop, take a look, and now we have our texture here. This is going to be what we draw our tiles on, our triangles, whatever pattern we want. I've got a work in progress here for the tile example. I've already made it for our example, obviously. I wanted to show this work in progress. I literally just took this running bond ca.jpg out of the zip folder and I started drawing on it, and bit by bit you can make your tiles look however you want. We're going to save this and slide this right back into Chief in the texture slot, and we should, when we're all done making it, we should be good to go. And if we did our job right, it'll look like this. Let's go down here, look at our bathroom example, and I think I called it Aztec floor tile. So this is after I already put it together. Okay, so all I did was take that Tile Basics texture and I just photoshopped in these little triangle patterns. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be super artistically inclined. You can even hire somebody to do it for you if you'd like. If it's something pretty unique, I'll usually start with the Tile Basics and then just Photoshop over the top of that texture. If it's something more complex, but I know it's in the Tile Builder series, let's take a look at our checklist real quick. Chief Architect is here at the top. A lot of basic materials you can already make in Chief. Anything base colors like solid color without a texture. It's just super simple to pick the color that you want in Chief. You can make porcelain, drywall, countertops. If you have something more complex though, there are tools in Chief. For example, let's say we found our tile here. And this tile would indeed work. It's got all the things that we need, but it's got a white border around the entire thing. And if I put that in Chief, I would get that white border around all these tiles and it wouldn't look correct. So I need to crop that out. There are tools in Chief for that. I'm going to go up here on the top to Tools, drop down to Screen Capture, Capture Screen. And I'm going to crop out that white border. So I go from the top left down to the bottom right. And as I let go, I get a new material 10 right here. I'm going to rename that Triangle Tile. Hit OK. Let's open it up. Okay, we've got our triangle pattern right here. It looks like we've got 4 tiles across. 4 tiles times 10 inches each. That's going to be 40. Hit OK. If we did our jobs right, it should be 10-inch tiles. Let's put them down. Not bad at all. All right. Let's go back to our checklist. We talked about pulling the texture out of a zip to just paint over the top with MS Paint or Photoshop. If you want to make something a bit more complex with maps, with full control over grout and whatnot, you can try using the substance tools we provide. Let's take a look at some examples. These are all made with the substance player tile builders in Chief. If you'd like to try making your own with the substance player, we offer the files here at Chief Talk, the symbols and content section, custom material generation with substance player. Just click on that. That'll have a detailed explanation on what it is, videos on how to use it, and then the actual link to the substance player itself. It's just a small download, and then these are the files that let you build tile, wood, fabrics, etc. These are all examples of things made in Substance Player. Once you get used to it, it's very quick. They all come with maps, with textures. So if you were going to make, let's say, something like this penny tile, but you didn't want this color, you could change the colors as you wanted. If you wanted to have some things metal, you could. It's a lot easier than drawing your own from scratch. I like this one a lot too. It has control over what parts are metal, which parts are not, using the metal map functionality. So you don't really have to know what's going on so much. You just have to watch the video and just rip off your textures and your maps and just drop them into Chief, and the video will help you get going. So if you're interested in that, it looks somewhat like this. This is the basic tile builder. Right now it's set on just offset white subway. If I can go to 2x1, I can drop the color down to 2-color random or 2-color checker. And I've got these options. I've got my color and options for tile 1, tile 2. Let's make that a metal. You can change the color to a dark. Go down to something more robust. Let's do a picket. Change that to a limestone or a marble. And let's change that color to a light blue. Okay. We also have control over our roughnesses. We can change this. And our color saturation. And our color variation if you want different variations of the tile. Let's do that up here on this one as well. Looks pretty good. Also, your maps are up here as well. So these are the textures. If you wanted to Photoshop these textures, you could. If you wanted to go to normal, there's your normal maps. That's already done. Roughness is already done. Metallic is already done. So you just slot these into the same material slots in Chief Architect right here after you've exported them. There's a video showing you how to do all this. Your textures go here, your normals go here, your properties, your roughness goes here, and your metal map goes here. So we took our material tile basics catalog, we took the texture out and made a copy of it. We painted our tiles over the top of it and we reinserted it in the texture slot, and we're pretty happy with it. We made our 10-inch tile pattern before, but let's just double check it. 10 inch by 10 inch. We're going to look at it in watercolor view to make sure that everything lines up. And looks pretty good. We're lined up here on the intersections. But in case I wanted to have the triangle show up in my vector views, in my pattern views, I would have to then derive the pattern from the texture that we made. Because right now I just did a drop down to the grid, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I wanted to have the triangle set up, I would have to go to pattern from texture. We're going to get our pattern from the actual image, which is triangles. And this, depending on how clean your texture is, you'll get a better pattern out of it. So I want to see the grout lines and the triangles. If I just wanted to see the triangles, I could bring the threshold down, but I want to see both. Let's hit OK. Looks kind of crazy, a little bit dirty, but let's see how it looks. Pretty good. Spot on. Let's take a look at it in vector, see what we get. There's vector, looks pretty clean. Go back to PBR. Spot on. Okay, one thing I noticed that we forgot was to put the tile in the shower because nobody wants a hardwood shower. So let's eyedrop that. We're going to move in past the glass because I don't paint it. Hit paint. Zoom out. Okay. So let's take a reference shot and see how we look. Pretty close. Let's see the other side. Yeah, not bad. So at this point, I'm pretty happy with all my material colors, sizing, types, and now I just want to do some fine-tune adjustments. And to do that, we're going to get a little bit complex. This question came up a lot in my previous presentation, so I really want to do this right. So we're going to spend a little bit of time showing how to do fine-tune adjustments, starting with this bottom half tile setup here. That's ugly, and I don't want it. I want a full tile to start off my tile run. So we're going back to plan view. We're going to make a cross-section elevation with this camera up here. We're going to go inside the shower, and we're going to drag it out to get a view that we can measure with. I'm going to scroll in here down to the bottom, and you can see my half tile, half cut here. I don't want that. So I'm going to offset the tile vertically to get a full tile section in that little run right there. To do that, I need to get a tape measure, which is up here in CAD, Dimensions, Tape Measure. And the tape measure has snapping functionality, so if I hold down Control, I can get a more accurate dimension. I'm going to go up here to this line, see how much I have to offset it by. Now let's move this down so I can actually see what I'm doing. Scroll down. 1.5 inches. So we're going to need to vertically offset our tile by 1.5 inches. It's a 3-inch tile, so up or down doesn't really matter. Okay, let's close that. So I'm going to grab my adjust tool. I'm going to hit this, and this is going to change all the tiles in the shower. I want to go 1.5 inches. Vertical offset. Hit OK. That's going to raise it up. Now we've got a nice full run there. But now, because I did that on all the tile in here, let's go up here to my niche. Now I've got the same offset problem that I had before. I don't need that 1.5 inch offset in the niche. So if I changed it in here, again, it would change all the tile. So that's fine now, but let's go back down here. You can see that it's now back to normal. So I'm going to undo that. So just like our countertop, we're going to take a copy of this material. We're going to Shift-C. Here's our bluebell. We're going to copy it. We're going to name this niche. And one trick I learned from a user, because you can't see the name of the tile, after 2 or 3 copies, it's fine to kind of keep track of. But if you have like 6, 8, 10 copies for a more complex tile setup, one thing he liked to do and showed me was to blend it. So we're going to blend it with some white colors, some gray colors. Let's go up here to white for the first one. So that way we can visually see in the plan what's a different copy of that material. And it'll make sense as I do it, hopefully. I'm going to take that offset off for my niche. So I got the name niche, the offset is 0, and my color is going to be a white. Hit OK. That's now in the plan. I can either add it to the library, or I can just hit OK. Let's double click on the niche. We're going to go to material, and we're going to change these two. Plan material, and there's our niche. Okay? Hit OK. Okay, so now that is a white version of the tile, and when I'm all done and I'm happy with how it looks and everything's not confusing at all, I will then go back through and take off all that blending, and I'll have all blue tile. But right now, that lets me keep track of what I've already moved. So the base tile that I put on all of them is already set. That's just natural blue. The niche is a special case that gets the offset taken off, so that's going to be by itself. Our offsets are gone, so we got a nice clean tile run inside. But I've got this ugly joint here. I don't want this slice in here. I want that negated. So, same thing. So let's offset that corner. I'm going to take a guess and say 1/2 inch, but let's go ahead and do it again. Shift C. Let's purge stuff that's not being used. We got our niche, we got our subway. We want our subway. Take a copy of that. This is going to be our left wall. Okay, and we're going to offset that. I'm going to guess 0.5. Oops, 0.5 inches. Let's blend this with a darker gray to help us track what's been moved. Hit OK. And now we've got 3 already. So let's add them to the library so we can keep track of it a little bit better. We're going to add this one to the library. Add this one to the library. And the basic one. Add to the library. Okay. So now I've got my three materials here. That's our left wall. That's our niche. So our grays are different. Let's put this one over here and see how we did. So this is the 1/2 inch offset. Watch the corner. Okay. Looks clean. Let's back out. Clean, clean, clean. How's this corner? Same thing. Let's try that left wall. Maybe we can get by with having them both. Yeah, that'll work. So I've got this one slice here, this sliver, and over here a little bit of extra space. So if I offset that maybe 1 inch, I'll get a cleaner run. Let's go back to our normal one, open it up, offset that by 1 inch. And you can see as I do all these little nitpicky changes. Let's add it to there, see how we look. That's better. As we do all these nitpicky changes, I changed this blue one, this didn't change, this didn't change, this didn't change. We're good. So if I zoom out, I've got all my tile how I want. I've got 4 copies of that tile bouncing around. Well, 3 actually. It's about to be 4. There's one more thing I wanted to mention, and that's this bench here. So when you make stuff like this in Chief, you can make it any way you want. Any object, any sort of furniture object from the library. You can use a primitive, you can use a soffit, you can use a countertop. It doesn't matter to us how you make it as long as you're happy with it. But let's say I wanted to put this same tile on this bench. Now I've got a weird situation here where my tile's going the wrong way. The sides are fine, but the top I want to rotate it. And that's simple, right? I can go through here. Let's do it right. Let's do another copy. We're going to copy it. Let's call this one bench. Let's blend it. This is going to be a dark gray. And we're going to rotate it 90 degrees. And that should just take care of it for us, right? We're going to add it to the library. Hit OK. And now I've got my offset up here. So you see the tile bench. So when I put this on here, it should rotate 90 degrees. But that's wrong. I don't want these ones to rotate either, right? Now my sides are wrong. So I can't just offset the material. Instead, let's go back and put this one on there. I'll just rotate it, right? Let's pull it over here. Let's rotate it. Let's change the size. And we're back to where we were. And the reason this is happening is sometimes in Chief, depending on the tools you use, the mapping, the direction that the tile's going in, the direction your textures are going to be going in, is going to be hard locked. The reason that this one is not behaving properly is that this is a countertop, custom countertop specifications. So countertops don't let you rotate materials because it wants to keep all the countertops going the same direction. But for what we're trying to do here, this is going to be the wrong object for the job. So we're going to delete that. If I go up here to the core catalog, go down here to shapes, go to boxes, let's go to a closed box, let's place it, let's go back down to our user catalog, grab our bench version, put it on there. We don't want that. Let's try the regular one. That's closer. Now if I rotate this back, let's see if our materials look correct. There we go. So now I've got my sides looking correct and my top looking correct. It happens rarely, but sometimes it can be really frustrating if you have the wrong 3D geometry for the job. So let's slide this one in there. Slide this one in there. Shorten it up a little bit. Pull it back out to the edge. So this tile is good to go. We can take off the rotation off the bench. And let's take out that offset too and see how that looks, because I see a little half-inch spot over here. Let's put it on. Clean. Good to go. We did all that. We got our nitpicky stuff done. Our little slivers of tile are gone. We have a nice clean base starting point down here. Our niche is clean. And now we can go through when we're all done. Simply go in here, adjust the material tool, and let's start taking off those blends. Take it off, set using texture, hit OK. Same thing here. Take it off, set using texture, hit OK. So the only reason that we had colors on there in the first place was to make sure that we could see visually which materials were copies. So that way we don't have to keep opening it up and checking the notes up here for like bench. Let's take it off, set using. Awesome. And now our tile is lined up how we want it. Okay, so let's take a look how we do that in X13. So the same situation, the same bathroom, the same tile, but now we're in X13. So we're going to zoom in, same thing as before, the nitty gritty stuff. We're going to take this 1.5 inch vertical offset. We're going to grab our adjust rainbow tool here, click on it. What's this? Create copy of material. Well, the first one we don't have to. We want to edit the source material since we're doing just the initial offset on all the tile. We want to go to our texture. We want to do a vertical offset of 1.5 inches. And we're going to hit OK. And that should pop this up just like so. Let's go take a look at our niche, just like we did last time. And sure enough, there's our 1.5 inch offset. We want to take that out. Yes, please. We would love to make a copy of the material. We're going to name this one niche. So instead of hitting Shift-C and opening up the plan materials, we're just doing this with the rainbow tool new functionality. This lets us make copies of our materials as we're working. We go through here. We're going to take that offset off. And just like before, oops. Let's go to texture and take that offset off. Just like before, we're going to do a blend, just so we can visually see what's going on to make sure that it is indeed a copy. The niche was a brighter white. We named it niche. We took the offset off. We blended it white. Let's hit OK. Just the niche changed. Our offset is gone. And now we hit Shift-C. And sure enough, there's our niche. So before we'd hit copy, add to library as needed. But now we don't have to. Now we go over here. Yeah, that's right. We had a sliver of tile in there. We took that off 1/2 inch. We're going to create a copy. We're going to do left wall. Hit OK. Texture. Let's offset it by 0.5, and let's blend this one to a darker gray. Hit OK. Our tile slides in nicely. We got our dark gray in there. It did not move the blue or the light white. We are still good there. And then the bench, we won't do the bench again, but you get the idea. We also now have a handy dandy add to library button. So we hit that. There's our library object. Let's do it there. We're going to add to the library. Let's do it there. We're going to add to the library. We've got our 3 copies: subway, left wall, niche. So a little bit faster in X13. It's the same functionality. It's all just housed within the tools here. And I reset the room here just to show one more bit of functionality. Before I showed you the scoping tools, with the eyedropper tool, you can eyedrop, and that gives you access to the component, object, room, floor, plan. You can also do that now when you make your copies of your materials. So if I wanted to make a copy of this material and have it apply to the entire room, I could have room checked here. Let's do subway tile 2 room scope. Let's hit OK. We're going to just change the color of this tile. Let's go to textures. Let's go to blend with textures. Go down to a gray. Hit OK. And hit OK. And everything in the room except for the niche should change. Why didn't the niche change? Because the niche is his own thing. If I wanted the niche to change, I should probably do floor. Let's try this one. Go to floor. Let's change the texture, blending, go down to gray, hit all right, hit go, and everything on the floor changed. And that applies to room, object, plan. Works just like the tools in the object painter. It's just to be used when you're making copies of materials. So yeah, X13, pretty dang quick. Okay, we're looking pretty good. I just wanted to mention a few more things. When we generate a pattern from texture, it can be kind of heavy, or textures and maps as well. So if you are making a bunch of copies of these materials, that's fine. You can make as many copies as you want because they are all using the same texture. If we go here, open this up, this is using the same exact subway tile texture.jpg. Let's go in here and take a look. Same one. It's just loading the same texture over and over. So when we make copies in Chief, we aren't copying the actual texture. All the maps, the normal maps, the roughness maps, are all being carried forward in Chief. So you can go crazy. You can make as many copies as you need without slowing down your plan. The one thing that might slow you down eventually is having a large resolution, especially if you're getting your materials from online. If you're looking at online sources, the industry standard right now for video games especially is about 4K. For Chief, we recommend not going above 1024 except for really special cases. And by special cases, I pretty much mean things like grass, or if you have like a portrait of somebody in a plan, maybe make that one 4K or even 2K. But more times than not, 1024 will get you to where you need to be. 512 even for most things, for concrete, for drywall, for cloth. A lot of the times 512 will get you to where you need to be. Here is an example of resolution for wood. Wood, I recommend, depending on how much you need to see the grain. Here's an example of 256, but 512, and then 1024. And you can see between 256 and 1024, there's a drastic difference in how much of the grain you can actually see. This one's kind of murky, kind of muddy. This one's kind of clear. And your initial impression might be to make everything high res, and that will slow down your machine. So think about it. If you want to have a high res hardwood floor, that's great. 1024 will be what you need. If you want, orange peel on your drywall, if you want some brushed metal, if you want some concrete, 512 will probably be plenty for you. Just take a look at it. Start small and work your way up. If you start small and it looks bad, bump it up 512, 1024, but maybe don't go 2K or 4K, and at most maybe 1 or 2 in your plan, and that'll keep your plans nice and speedy. And that's about all I've got for odds and ends. Let's take a quick look at our reference one more time to see how we did. Pretty close. Let's take a look at some renders, and then we can ray trace what we're looking at. Our glass will look better in a ray trace view. Our reflections will look better. Our ambient lighting will look much better. We can adjust our colors, our saturations after the fact. And that's all I've got today. So I just hope you guys enjoyed and learned some things today. I appreciate you watching. So yeah, let's do some questions. There's a little hand raising icon in the webinar UI. If you have a question you'd like to talk to me about, go ahead and hit that little button. Carrie will then get you situated. We'll have you unmute your own mic before or when we ask your question. We'll then unmute you on our end, and then we can talk and do our thing. Let's try to keep the questions as best we can within the scope of materials. If you have a question outside the scope and you got it, ask us. That's okay too. Go ahead and ask us. We have staff members on hand that know more about everything else in Chief, but my focus is mostly on materials. So with that, do we have any questions?
Hey, Dustin, we have Robin Stewart here with a question. Go ahead and
Hey,
ask your
Robin,
question.
what's up?
Hey there, how you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I actually have two quick questions. The first one you're going to answer with a no immediately, and the second one you might have help with.
Sweet.
So I use a lot of custom textures where I will steal the color or tiles from a company like Dow Tile or Artistic Tile or any company that I'm using, and changing grout colors. I could do easily with the texture, but not the image. So is that something that I always have to like Photoshop, or is there another way to do that?
I've briefly shown that substance player. I don't know if you've tried this yet, but if you go get the file from Chief Talk, this actually has grout controls built in. So let's say you wanted to do a, let's do a herringbone. Where's it at?
And this is using an image, correct?
Yeah, this is all, we're just generating images here as I move my hand that you can't see. We're generating images over here. And this is just a 3D preview of what you're going to see in Chief as we go.
But if you stole that image from, if you like swiped it from, like, let's say like Artistic Tile or something like that, a color that a tile you're actually using, not like, a replication of the tile that you want to use, but the actual tile. Because oftentimes I just go like, if we're using a tile from Porcelanosa, like I'll go take the image from Porcelanosa and I'll use that image, and I often pull it into Paint because Paint's easy to use.
Sure.
And so
if that's the case, then your image is going to be static. So if you get the image from an actual manufacturer, that's totally fine. But if you want control over your grout, you're going to have to either go in there and paint it yourself. But if you can replicate it in here, we do have the grout controls. Let's change the color of this tile to make it more obvious.
And this program is to do this. This is separate from Chief Architect, correct?
This is separate. It's a free download. This is when I make tile for Chief, I use this software. And so as I make more shapes of tiles, I just keep adding them in here for people to use to make their own.
Okay.
So if I wanted to make this tile, instead of searching for it, I can go through here and just change the grout color. Now, if I wanted this to be black, if I wanted to have the grout thickness thicker. So I can kind of get close. If I don't have the tile in Chief already, I can either take the static image like you're doing right now in MS Paint and drawing the grout lines over the top, or with Photoshop. Both are options, but sometimes it's just quicker to come in here and say, okay, I can eyedrop. I can just pick the eyedrop color that I want for the grout for the tile. If it's a multicolor, I can drop down here to a 2-color random, a 3-color random. This can be a metal. So I just got to dial in the ones I want. Let's change that to a white.
So can the moderators just pop that into, they did the substance player, correct?
Yeah,
okay,
it should be in chat already. But yeah, there's a couple of videos that'll show you how to use it. Once you've done it once or twice, it's pretty quick to make what you're trying to make. If it's a really complex tile, like unique geometric shapes, like weird triangle patterns, if you don't see it in there in this drop down for whatever shape you need, email me a picture of it. And as I make more versions of it, because I can make these tiles all day, but I can't make every single color combination, the same grout colors, the tile materials. Like if I wanted to make this a limestone, this will change limestone. I can't do every combination in Chief because once you make the textures, they're static. They can't change without
Got it.
manipulating the image. So with this, if I make a certain tile that you asked for, that means I can put it in this builder, and now everybody has access to that tile shape and the colors that come with it, the grout controls, even the resolution up here. You can make these, make these like 1024.
Oh my
So,
word, it was hard enough to learn Chief Architect. Now we have another program to learn.
this is super quick. If you have any problems, go ahead and email me at dustin@chiefarchitect.com. There's a video
Okay.
showing you exactly how it works, and I'd love to help you out with it.
Okay, my second question for you is, and this is probably, it's on along the same lines.
Sure.
Is that when I'm trying to do like a custom floor plan pattern for flooring, like for example, I want to do a quarter sawn white oak. It's like from Vermont hardwoods. It's like 8.5 by like 48 to 60 inch pieces, and I want to randomly generate that. But like I can clip a piece and custom put it into the drawing.
Yeah.
But oftentimes when I cut it on Photoshop, because of how the pieces seam together
Yeah. You get
in
those
the
squares.
drawing, it doesn't, it looks like squares. That's exactly correct. So
Okay.
in tiles, I leave a reveal, like for example, like when you did a custom tile with Chief Architect, I leave a small reveal around the top and the side, just so that way I can see the grout lines, but you can't do that with wood flooring.
Okay, so wood flooring, there's also the stuff in Chief already, the wood flooring I'm sure you've already found in Core, but I hate to beat a dead horse, but let's look at the wood builder. Same thing, we're gonna drop down to, let's say, an 8-inch engineered, and if I look at this this image, let's pull it back a little bit.
That's the same, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. That's the same program for the tile builder, right?
It's the same program, but it's just the substance player up here at the top left. That's the program. You just download a simple, it's like a PDF reader essentially. You can load
Okay.
any PDF into it, but the files themselves are what we make here at Chief. So you'd want to go to Chief Talk. You'll see the tile builder, and below it, there's the wood builder.
Okay.
And this is the exact same thing. And these will all be seamless, and you have controls over the size, the wood species. So we can go down to ash, we can go down to oak, etc. You can make whatever kind of wood you want. Let's do Coruscant. There's more controls down here as well. The hue, you can change the saturation. If you want like a bleached out version, you can lighten it up. There's roughness controls. So you can have your maps come in with, you see this, you've got your 3D
You could
aspects
change
here.
width. You could
I'm
change
sorry?
width. You could change
Yeah.
width.
You can change width here. There's 5, 3, 4, 5 different kinds of strip widths. If you want like a really custom, let's say you're gonna make a, what'd you say, 8.5 inch or something?
Yeah, doing white
you-
plank.
Yeah, if you get an 8-inch wide plank, and you can just bring this into Chief, it's already seamless, so it will lay just fine. There'll be no squares. There'll be nothing. And if you want a higher res version, same thing up here. You can just change the resolution.
Good enough. Thank you so much.
No problem. Hopefully it helps you out. And if you have any problems or requests with it, just don't be shy. Come get me. Let me know.
Thank you.
No problem.
Dustin, we have a question from Nilofar. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that when you have two different layout of the tile on your floor plan, like if you have a in the middle, you have Harry Potter, and then you have like a brick style. How you do that?
I believe your question is you want two separate tile regions on your floor. So you want two separate.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like in the middle, I have some kind of flooring and like a layout, and around I have another. Like it's a. I used to do it with a like a polyline solid, like I was drawing polyline solid, and then I would do it in two different way. Then how you would do it?
There's the backsplash tools and the wall coverings. I'm not sure if that works for floors though.
It does.
You talking something like this? Yeah, Scott.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
then if you kind of point your camera towards the floor, there's a tool called the floor material region, and in your build menu there,
Build
floor, floor material region.
Material region. Right there.
And so you just click and drag, and then you can apply a new material on there. There you go. That looks really bad.
I just started, man. Does that answer your question? Is that what you were
Yes,
after?
it does. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that's all my issue.
No problem.
Thank you.
Dustin, we have a question from Cindy Baker. Hi, Cindy. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey, Dustin, I think you might have kind of answered this with Robin's questions, but I've been working lately with a lot of hexagonal tiles,
Yeah.
and some of them have been where you get 10 to 12 different patterns within the box. So is there an easy way, or do you really just have to make every single tile individually?
Are you talking a specific pattern? If I'm understanding you correctly, you want to make is it random tile, or is it like a specific pattern you want to generate with the
Well,
hex?
the one I'm specifically using right now is a wood look. It looks like distressed kind of painted wood, but the tile is 10-inch hexagonal pieces,
Okay.
and there are 10 different patterns in a box that you kind of mix together. So I'm trying to show that on the floor to the client, and I'm just making a huge mess of it.
That's actually a really cool one. I have the wood builder, but I also have the tile builder, but they don't actually connect in that way yet, but I'd love to try it. If you'd like to send me a picture of that, I'll
Okay.
check it out and help you out after the fact. That'd be a cool one to
That's
make.
great. Thank you.
So, yeah, Dustin at chiefarchitect.com.
Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We've got Linda Herman. Hi, Linda. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, I'm curious how I'll take wood, for instance, change the resolution on just one material.
Okay, so you wanted to change the resolution of the material?
Yes, so like
Okay.
you just showed the wood, the difference in the wood based on the resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Can you change the resolution on just one material?
I can in the substance builder if I go to, I'm not sure if the wood one has
Okay.
it yet. I think I didn't add it correctly yet on wood sizing, but I'll add that after this. Texture or tile I already did. So if you
Okay.
look at here, because this isn't a static image yet, we're going to rip off static images when we hit export up here.
Yeah.
But right now it's still pretty fluid. I can change the colors and I can change the resolution. If I drop it down to something ugly like 256, you'll see these hard, crunchy edges. If I make it let's do a penny tile. See how low res that looks?
Yes.
So yeah, if you're running into stuff like this where you're getting images off the internet or the materials are too small and you have weird angles that don't look good, I'll add this for the wood builder later this afternoon. But yeah, jack up the resolution here to 1024, and even then it's a little bit crunchy in there. I'm not sure how the compression's doing, but let's go to 2K. I said don't go to 2K or 4K in my presentation, but this is one of those special cases where if you have, let's say these are going to be 5-inch tiles, you don't want them to be 512 because then you will get this kind of ugly edging on there because it's kind of a weird shape for the computer to render. So I
Okay.
jacked that up to 248.
But you can't do it on any of the current core catalog items. It would need to be in the substance layer.
The way, if you open up a material in Chief, let's go to our rainbow tool here, open it up. We're going to edit the source material. Open it up. If you see a texture in here, this is a static texture. That one is locked in place. So currently, we don't have any sort of modular textures, nothing that we can scale as needed yet. But we hopefully will in the future. That's something that's kind of happening bit by bit in the industry.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Dustin, we had Robert write in a question. He was wondering if you could go over how to make a custom pattern, not a texture, but a pattern that you can see in vector.
Sure. So the question is how to make a custom pattern in vector. Let's open this up. We're going to edit the source material. So if I didn't want to derive the pattern from the texture, which would be these triangles that I showed before, if I just wanted to make my own, there's the pattern section right here, pattern then define materials. So right now it says no pattern. You can drop down and select any kind of pattern that you like. And each one has its own sizings, its own its own settings. So if I wanted to make, let's say, the pattern for this texture, these are going to be 10-inch tiles. I would go to grid, and I would change these to 10. Hit OK. Now that looks pretty good. Let's go to watercolor. And we're lined up.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Charles. Hi, Charles. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, we do a lot of stone work where I need a big variated pattern, especially in vector of like we have moss rock walls, and I guess in your, I know there's a lot of stone in chief, but something custom that we can actually draw the vector and match like a lava rock or something like that.
Yeah, so you want like a random rock.
Yeah, bigger random. Yeah, bigger selection of random where in a big field, it doesn't look like repeat. It does actually look random.
Let me write that down. That's actually, I'd love to dig into stone, but as you probably already know, stone it's hard to do. It's a lot of varied materials, and it's kind of a lot of janky corners and edges and stuff. We'll see a stone vector builder. One thing that you can try with that pattern generator, if you can find a clean image, or if you have a diagram or just a setup that shows the shape of your rock, you can do that tile generator or that pattern generator.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, if I was going to make a, let's go back to the tile generator. If I was going to make we'll go to tile with diamond. If I wanted to make this in vector, and I had, let's put a marble on there and another marble. So that tile generator or the pattern generator in chief will pick up these veins here on the stone. So if you have a stone that has a lot of detail and you try to generate your own vector pattern from it, if you haven't tried it yet, you'd probably get a lot of noise, a lot of excess lines, and that will slow down your plan quite a bit sometimes, depending on the size of it. But if you can generate, even just like take it into Paint or Photoshop and just draw the lines over where you want your seams. So up here, if I generated a pattern from this normal or this roughness, I would get nice clean vector lines, and it'd be a lot faster in chief. So for your stone, go ahead and email me if you have any requests like this. I'd like to take a crack at it myself. But if you have a clean, no stone textures in here, but just draw lines over the top of where you want your vectors to be, you can then generate your vector in chief with the pattern generation like this. So it'll look at your image, which is just going to be straight lines that you drew on a JPEG or PNG, and you can do the threshold here to find your vector lines. So that way you have control over the size of it, the amount of repeat and stuff. But if you were looking for a procedural vector generator that just kind of, it never repeats and it just makes its own in chief, I will log that myself for a feature request because I like that one a lot too. And
okay,
just that way you can just pick it in vector and hopefully it'll just generate. But I'll log it today.
Thanks a lot. Look forward to it. Take care.
Problem. You too.
Dustin, we have a question from Vicki Worcester. Hi, Vicki. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi. With the Substance Player, can you import an image and then work with it? Or import a texture?
You can with a wood, actually. You can. There's an image import right here. The way it works is you want to bring in an uncut wood, so like a wood species that you'd want. So just grab a picture of alder or oak or whatever you want. You'd hit image input here, load your image. I don't have one on stock right now currently. Sorry about that. Actually, let's do this. We'll just export this one as uncut. We'll go to our desktop. We'll say uncut. I'm going to make it a JPEG, and we just want the base color. And hit export, and then we'll feed it back into itself and grab uncut. So now, right now, it's looking at this uncut section right here, this JPEG. We're going to go down to image input for our wood species. And now we can go through and cut however we want. And we have control over our board color variations. So all you need to do is grab the bigger the better, of course. Grab a big selection of wood, grab a wood image, and then just slot it in there. And the tricky part is the wood species drop down to, or go up to the image input section instead of a wood species. And that will look at whatever is in here, and you should be good to go.
But you can't do that with tile, just with wood.
Not yet. Actually, I'm not sure if Renee's here today. But a user named Renee Rabbit, a really advanced user for materials and stuff, he asked for that, and I've been meaning to try and slot it into tile. I'll put it on my to-do list again. I want to add an input for that. So you can just grab an image of a tile and slot it in there, and it'll spread it across the tile builder. But I don't have it yet.
Fantastic. Thank you.
No problem.
Dustin, Pamela wrote in and she was wondering if you could open up the properties of your glass. She just wants to see how you have it set.
Glass here and just the glass wall?
Yes.
Sure. I deleted the glass wall on this one. Let's there's some glass over here. It's the same glass, just standard. So it's the standard glass in chief. If you go to the core material or the core library materials, glass and porcelain, there's nothing really special about it. And I think what you're running into is that if I'm on the right track, you notice that you can't really see it here that well. But what's happening is you can't refract it in PBR. And so PBR, standard, vector, all this will look kind of transparent. You won't really be able to see it, but let me bring up the slide here. You can see it in ray trace. In ray trace, it'll refract just fine. The light will go through it and it'll bend and look like glass. But currently in X12, you can't see it unless you're ray tracing it. And if you want to open up any sort of glass material, you can double check it by going here to the define materials, go down to the properties, and this is what we're after, this transparent. This will make it refract correctly in ray trace. But right now we're in standard, you can't really see it. If I go to change the material class up to general material, there is a transparency slider. Currently that will not let it refract in ray trace. So you might have glass that looks like this. It's transparent, correct, but when you ray trace it, it doesn't refract light, doesn't bend light as it goes through, and that's pretty much glass's defining quality visually. So make sure that your drop down is on transparent, and that will give you this index of refraction here. This is the tag that lets Chief know that it needs to refract light as it goes through it. Hopefully I answered your question. Yeah, fire back if you have more questions on glass. Dustin at chiefarchitect.com.
We have a question from Tamala. Hi, Tamala. Go ahead and ask your question.
No, I don't have a question. I think I accidentally raised my hand, but I would like to add that sometimes when I'm doing PBR, I'll change glass to barnwood or something just because it creates a texture.
Sure.
And then the client can see it. But I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
No problem. Nice tip.
Dustin, we have a question from Laura Parker. Hi, Laura. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, I'm on the website for the Substance player, and it's actually saying it's only a 30-day trial, and then you have to pay depending on the,
Sure,
if you want pro or whatever. But it's
sometimes they change the link on us, and if it ever changes, then it goes down to the Substance Designer, the Substance Painter. Let's double check. Substance Player download. Substance Player, easy material. Yeah, this is the one we want. The Substance Player products player, the green icon up here.
Okay.
Download
But
for Windows and Mac.
Is this just because up at the top right corner it's saying try free download? Is that?
Yeah, there's other
different?
ones. There's a Painter and Designer, and these are the two that I actually use to make materials in Chief. And then once they are all done and the settings are correct, so how I slice the wood, what shape of tiles are there, then I can export it out for Player for everybody else to use. It should be free. Let's download Windows. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Download it just fine. So Substance Player is what you're after.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem.
Dustin, we have a question from Sean. Hi, Sean. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Sean?
Dustin?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good to talk to you today. Listen, I had a situation come up last week where I did a check tile, like black and white, that were marble. And the client wanted marble. And the thing is, I got marbleization in the black tile, but in the white tile, it didn't inverse. You know what I'm saying? Where the the waves and stuff like that.
Were you doing it in
the
Chief
white
or the
tile.
Substance Player?
What?
Were you doing it
I
in?
built it in Substance Player.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Let's take a look. Oops. Let's minimize
And
that.
I got in a little bit late today, so
Sure.
I hope you didn't cover that earlier.
No, I don't think so. So you did let's do a 2x1.
Just a large tile and
Large tile.
checker. There you go. And one was black, one was white, and I did marble.
Let's see, marble.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the other one was white.
Correct, marble. Okay, see how you see the waves in the black of the marble, but on your white, you can't, if you go white, it doesn't inverse to where those would turn dark. When you have a white marble and you've got marbling in it, it's typically dark.
Sure. The way I have it built right now, I probably just didn't assume that it would be a darker vein, but that's a fantastic get. I will put that on my list. And we've talked about adding controls to let you kind of control the grain itself, like what color you would want for your grain, for your background, for your noise on these different things.
Oh,
that kind of
that'd be
ties
awesome.
into that. Yeah, if we can get like a raw tile builder, kind of let you build your tile, or even like as the previous user asked about inserting your own inputs. You can grab the tile that you want from an image and then feed it in there. That might be the way to go too. So I'll put that on my list to make.
That would be awesome.
Are you using the tile builder a lot for what you're doing?
Actually, I use it for every tile I use now.
I'm glad to hear it.
I make my own tile.
It's fantastic.
And the thing is, it's
easy, man. I want to see what you're making.
Oh, I've got your email. I'll send you my stuff. I've been a Chief user for a long time.
Glad to hear it.
I never really get on this stuff, but I'm really looking. Let me. Maybe I can ask you this. I purchased Twin Motion.
Yeah.
I purchased Twin Motion, and I brought some of my models into that, and it is pretty incredible what I've been able to do with my models. Is 13 going to be in that same thing for PBR, like real time?
I can confirm nor deny that such a renderer exists in X13, but I would scratch my chin like this if something might be coming down the pipe. If you'd like to see more, we have our this is today's presentation, but in 2 weeks there's 3D rendering and what's coming next. Emphasis on what's coming next.
I'm like dying.
Yeah, I believe you, man. I hear you.
Right.
I know exactly
I'm really looking forward to it because, like, real time, the glass refracts. It does everything.
Yes.
And I'm just really looking forward to that feature.
I know.
It does. And the problem is
so itchy.
Twin Motion. When I do my lighting in Chief, I bring it in Twin Motion. The lighting doesn't follow.
Yeah.
You know. So it'd be easier to just do it all in one place. But for one of the other persons that was talking about glass right now, what I do in PBR, I just turn my glass to gray shaded glass.
Yeah.
And typically you can see it. It works. And then on some of the small things like glasses and vases, I actually use one of the stained glass things, and it actually looks like glass.
Yeah,
the first one, it's got the green stuff in it.
Yeah. So
it looks like refracted glass.
Yeah, you can cheat it. You can add different types of materials in it. The glass, let's see, was it Chief materials, glass and glazing? You can try all these different ones to try and get a good, decent look.
If you go up to stained glass, the first one, circles and squares.
Yeah.
Take that first one and put it on that, and watch. Sorta,
kind of.
It depends on what it is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there's ways. Yeah, it depends on what you're trying to make.
Right. Well, listen, I really look forward to things coming up.
Hey, yeah.
I'm really excited about it.
Send me your stuff, man. I want to see what you're making.
I'll send you some of my renders.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Justin, did you have any announcements you wanted to make?
I will just briefly mention that, since they already came up organically, that there are more presentations coming up. This is today's, the materials patterns 3D visualization. Next week, or actually on Friday, there's a Chief Boot Camp. So if you are a new user or if you're just learning Chief, this is a great way to get started. Get you, defaults and preferences, floor plans and dimensions. If you have any like basic questions, this is the place to be for just the beginners boot camp. Next week, 2D elevations and what's coming next. And then after that, 3D renderings and what's coming next. So this one's pretty popular. It ties into materials a lot as well. I am just excited for that as you guys are. So I'm very excited to see what you guys make with Chief Architect. And yeah, don't be shy if you have any questions or something's not working for you, or specific requests for chief materials, manufacturers especially. If you say, I want this tile, I want this wood flooring, I want this concrete from this brand, talk to us at content@chiefarchitect.com, and also talk to the brand. The more people they hear from, the more pressure it builds to put their stuff into Chief. So don't be shy, let us know what you need. So if you need more learning resources, we offer free webinars, virtual training seminars, on-demand classes, one-on-one training sessions, video playlists, how-to articles, and Chief Talk. So reach out to us if you need anything, and we'll do our best to get you where you need to be. All right. I appreciate your time. I had a great time teaching. Thank you.